Today I did the Jogasaki coast hike and I'm going to give you just some quick information on it, how to get there, what you have to take care of during the hike, what the route is, and just some useful information if you want to do the hike yourself. Getting there from Tokyo, you first take the Tokaido line all the way to Atami. There you have to transfer to the Ito line, and then you have to transfer again sometimes the train runs directly, sometimes you have to transfer to the Izokyu line all the way to Jogasaki coast station. But even if you have to transfer, the train runs from the same platform the last time, so you will just have to exit the train, get on the next one, and that's it. To get to Atami, you can either take the Tokaido line, as I said, but you can also take the Shinkansen. The overall trip costs around 3,000 yen and takes around 1.5 to 2.5 hours, depending on if you take the Shinkansen or not. Now, the actual hike is supposed to start kind of one stop before Jogasaki Coast Station, on Futo Station, on the Izokyo line. However, I wouldn't recommend doing that part because it takes 15 additional minutes, and a lot of this hike, from what I've seen on the map, is basically just through forest areas and it's not really on the coast, which is kind of the main draw of this hike. So I wouldn't recommend doing that part. Instead, I would recommend going one station further. And then from Jogasaki Coast Station, it's around a 25-minute walk on the main road to the start of the trail. The hike starts at a restaurant that's called Bonaraya. I'll put the name down below. So if you put that into Google Maps, then you can easily start the hike from there and you can easily navigate towards the beginning of the hike. I'd recommend downloading Google Maps offline so you have it available even if you don't have a Wi-Fi connection. The hike itself is fairly easy. It's a 10-kilometer hike which should take maybe 3 to 4 hours depending on your speed and then depending on how many breaks you take. There aren't really any major elevations. It's a very flat hike. It's along the coast. Sometimes you have to climb over a small hill or something, but basically it is a very flat hike. The first section of the hike starts at around the restaurant that I mentioned and then dips into the forest. It sometimes opens up where you have some really great views of the Jogasaki coast, where you have some really beautiful stones and you have the cliffs and you have the beautiful ocean. And then it just kind of continues along that path until you reach the main attraction of the hike, which is Kadowaki Lighthouse and Kadowaki Suspension Bridge. This is the most popular section of the hike simply because there is a parking spot nearby, so people arrive by car, they leave their cars there, then they go to this lighthouse and the suspension bridge, they do maybe a short hike and leave. So this is kind of the section between here, and then later on there is a flower and lamp museum. This kind of section is the most popular part of the hike. After that, I didn't actually see a single person. Just after the flower museum, there is a small Japanese shrine, Renchakuji, which is kind of nice. It's worth a visit as it is basically along the main path. This is a small section where the road kind of becomes paved again, but then after 5 minutes you are back on the nature trail, and this is kind of the main part of the hike. It takes around 2 hours and it is really kind of nature based. There isn't any kind of civilization, there aren't any buildings, any vending machines or anything. It's mostly a hike through the forest. Sometimes it opens up to some really beautiful views out on the ocean, but I would say most of this section is hiking just through the forest and hiking through the canopy near the ocean. You can still hear the ocean, but you won't see it most of the time. Just at the end of this section you will have 3 more attractions. One, the Tajima waterfalls, which are kind of these waterfalls that fall into the ocean. Really beautiful, probably one of my favorite parts of the hike. Then you have Oyoro Kyodo. These are kind of these rock pools. So you have these rocks that go into the water and then you have these kind of pools inside that are maybe 3-4 meters deep. And you have, interestingly, they have kind of like fish. It's kind of like a rock platform on the ocean, and inside this platform you have another kind of water pools where you have some ocean fish swimming around. Really interesting place. Apparently you can go snorkeling there in summer, I was told. So if you go in July and August, you can go snorkeling there, and it's apparently really interesting kind of snorkeling in the ocean, if that makes sense. And then the third attraction is another suspension bridge. This one much less popular, so if you're looking for a cool picture like this one, then I would recommend going to that suspension bridge, and instead of trying to get a picture of you alone on the first Kadowaki suspension bridge, which is going to be full of people. And then after another 15 minutes or so you end up in a fishing port, which is also the end of the hike. From there you have to backtrack around 20 minutes back to the train station, this time Izo Kogen Station, which is one stop after Jogasaki Kaigan or Jogasaki Coast Station, and then you just have to take the train back home. For this hike I would recommend running shoes or trail shoes rather than proper hiking shoes, as I said, because it is a very easy hike. You don't have any kind of slippery steps or anything that you have to be particularly careful about. So easier shoes that allow you for more flexibility and feel better on your feet are recommended in my opinion. You can buy some food on the road. As I said, there's the restaurant at the beginning, there's also the kind of a snack stand towards the lamp museum. But I would recommend just bringing some food along. I brought just some normal stuff like nuts, sausages, cheese, some bread that I bought at the combini in the morning. There is no combini at Jogasaki Coast Station. However, if you maybe look around the area a bit, I'm sure that you're gonna find a combini there as well. But I would recommend just buying something at a bigger station, maybe in Atami, and just bringing it along. Same with drinks. There are some vending machines on the way that you can buy drinks from, so you can easily get drinks there, but you can also just buy them ahead. Saves you some trouble. Only a small part of the section of this hike is exposed to the sun, so you don't have to really be there careful about getting sunburned or anything, unless you spend a lot of time out in these kind of sections. But most of it is hiking underneath trees, so you're gonna have plenty of shade, so you don't have to really worry too much about that. On the trail itself, there isn't really that much anything dangerous. Obviously, do not go too close to the cliffs because they are pretty steep, and if you fall down, you're probably dead. But yeah, just keep your distance and you're gonna be fine. There aren't any bears on this trail because it's a coastal hike. It's not like a mountain hike where you will have to be careful to not meet a bear. So you don't have to bring your bear bells that you normally would bring for a hike in Japan. The only animal that might be somewhat dangerous is the suzumebachi, the Japanese giant hornet, or killer hornet as they are called now in the US. These are really kind of this sized hornets. Suzume means sparrow in Japanese, so it's kind of like sparrow sized hornets, and apparently it hurts a lot when you get stung. I saw 2 during the hike. One was when I was taking some pictures. It just started flying nearby. What I did, I just noped out of there, just walked away. The other one just flew over my head really close, so I just ducked and didn't get stung, thankfully. Apparently if you wear black clothing, that attracts them, so try to wear something more bright. But yeah, overall I wouldn't worry too much about them. Just try to not go into like the canopy, because if they have their nest there, then they might get aggressive. But normally nothing much to worry about. Also make sure to check the train times going there and back, because the train only leaves once an hour during this time. So what happened to me is that I just missed the train by 1 minute, so I had to wait for 1 hour at the train station. So just make sure that you check at which time the train leaves, and make sure that you're on time at the train station. Now for me, the highlights were certainly the 2 suspension bridges. They were really beautiful. They are kind of really imposing, as they are right above these really high cliffs. They rock a little bit, so you can feel a little bit uneasy on them. Really interesting place, and also that's why they attract the most people. The lighthouse was also pretty nice. Normally what you can do is you can climb up on the lighthouse for free, and from there you have a really beautiful panoramic view out on the ocean and out on the hike. Unfortunately it was closed right now because of Corona, I believe, but normally lighthouse is also a pretty cool spot. For me personally, I really like those rock pools, really beautiful. If you go, as I said, in summer, you can go snorkeling there. In that case, I would recommend maybe starting from the other side of the trail and then doing it in the opposite direction, maybe just up to the lighthouse, so you can start in snorkeling, or even going earlier. I started this time at around 12 p.m. If you start maybe early in the morning, 8-9 p.m, you can be much earlier at the rock pools and enjoy a day of snorkeling there. I think it's a really cool thing to do. Now the middle section, as I said, didn't really have that much. It was a lot of hiking through the forest, but once the views opened, that was really beautiful, because it kind of reminded me of like hiking in Canada, where you have like these really imposing pine trees and you have these rocks and like the raw ocean coming in, or the Pacific Northwest in the US. Really beautiful. But I think the main draw is certainly the quietness. I didn't actually meet any single hiker on this middle section. I was hiking for basically 3 hours on my own. The only other thing I met were fishers, and also this like a cat that was kind of just chilling in the middle of the hike for some reason. But yeah, other than that, nothing else. There weren't really any people. And also, as you kind of walk, you have the beautiful sound of the ocean waves crashing behind you. So you always hear the ocean in some port. Sometimes you hear it very close, sometimes you hear it very distantly. But it's also always kind of there, and it kind of adds this nice kind of backdrop, atmospheric sound as you're walking. So yeah, I would recommend this hike if you are looking for kind of a nature escape from Tokyo that's less than 2 hours away, or 2 or 3 hours away. If you're looking for a place that has fewer people than some of the more maybe mountain hikes in Tokyo, like Takao, or some other places like that. And if you're maybe new to hiking, especially hiking in Japan, then this is also a good start, because it's a very easy hike. You can do it easily in one day. You can easily do it as a day trip from Tokyo. So if you're new to hiking and maybe hiking in Japan, this is also a good option. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I think the next hike that I'm going to do is going to be a mountain hike. I already have a few mountain candidates set up. I'm going to go there depending on the weather, probably sometimes during this week. and then the next video should be up next week. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and help grow this channel. I really want to do more of these videos and showcase the beauty of Japanese nature to all of you, and I also want to kind of help you if you want to do some hiking, to give you tips on how you can do it best on these hikes in Japan. But yeah, with that said, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!